Oh, hello everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. It's that time of the week back here for another episode of Just Shilling, kicking it off Monday style. We actually have not one, but two guests today. So y'all are in for a special treat. But before we do get into it, I just want to say some welcomes. People are joining in here, trickling in. Juan, you're the first person I see, so congratulations. Thank you for joining, everyone. I appreciate you. Polkit, hello, hello. Thank you all for joining. Before we do get into it, folks, just want to go over some quick house rules here. The one thing that we will definitely avoid today is anything that is financial advice related. The opinions and things that we discuss are of the guest and my own, and do not necessarily represent the organization that we work for respectively, and like to keep this a fun place, a safe space. Everyone is welcome to ask questions, to join in the conversation. There's no such thing as a stupid question here, and if it's probably a little bit too controversial for a family dinner, we want to avoid that here, but we do like to welcome a little bit of spice into the episodes and keep things fun here. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our esteemed guest here, and it is very late in their part of the world here. So it's midnight, folks. So anyone that's listening right now, before we even get into this, let's get some like emojis, let's get some heart emojis. Let's give it up for our guest speakers who are taking time out of their day to join us here. Antonio, thank you for joining as well too. So let's kick it off here. Kelly, oh, nice to see you. So Dipesh, Emmanuel, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, how you all came to meet, and let's bring it back actually before we even get into that. If we can go through of when did you catch the bug? Like when did you fall down the rabbit hole and this whole journey start for you when it comes to blockchain, Web3, and crypto?
For me, I think I started with smart contract in 2016. Yeah, in very specific terms, a very OG kind of person in this field.
Yeah, that's definitely OG for sure. And this is Dipesh, by the way, folks. So Dipesh, tell us a little bit about who you are and respectively the 30-second minute elevator pitch about who you are and your role in the company you represent, and then we can do the same thing for Manuel.
Right. I am the CEO, co-founder of BuildBear Labs. At a heart, techie. I love to basically do things around and on top of blockchain. And in BuildBear, essentially, we are just focusing on how we can bring Web2 efficiencies in Web3 development.
Fantastic. And Emmanuel, let's do the same thing.
Hey, Emmanuel here. I'm CDO, co-founder of BuildBear. I mostly come from a Rust or systems background, so yeah, I'm deep into the Web2 space. Till I got into crypto back in like 2019. Realized like it's pretty hard to do stuff in Web3 compared to already already set up Web2, right? So yeah, that's what we are trying to solve in BuildBear. Yeah.
Nice. So tell us a little bit more about, Build Bear and how did it come about? When did you all meet and decide to go down this journey together?
So okay, so keeping long story short, uh, yeah, I mean, we were actually working together for a project as developers, making dApps and protocols. When we actually hit a roadblock, the roadblock was deploying and testing smart contracts is a pain. It's still a pain. It's always been a pain. I mean, yeah, kind of right now it's solved. It's the people are trying to solve it day by day,
Mm-hmm.
but like yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
still a pain, right? So that's when we decided, what, we should do something about it. We should try to make some tool uh and solve this for the greater world. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And, bring us back a little bit to, and both of you guys can do this as well too, bring us back to what it was like working in Web 2 and what was your mindset back then and how has that changed since you've been able to effectively, make that transition into the industry?
Yeah, so for me, it's a little bit an odd story. Is by academic qualification, I'm actually a chartered accountant, and then I was an international tax lawyer for 11 years, and I transitioned into becoming a self-taught developer directly into Web3. And
Wow.
from day one, specifically, have only focused on Solidity as a language. So I know a couple of languages, and I think probably in the hierarchy would be Solidity, followed by JavaScript, followed by Python, and that's pretty much it. So I can only still play around 90% of my time only in Solidity, and the others I still kind of Google up and try to use a lot of help to get my things around.
That's
But one thing's for
awesome.
yeah, but one thing's for certain, logically, I'm just here talking about myself. Logically, uh, the state at which it is, even today, for developing a Web3 application and testing, just doesn't fit or check the right box for me. There is 50% of the sort of testing is programmatic, but the other 50% somewhere struggles with a bit of manual testing, go on a test ad, click some buttons and all that stuff, which is what we thought doesn't ring the right bell. I mean, I wouldn't expect, organizations like uh, any large normal corporate like a PayPal or them just jumping into and then trying to figure out how to get faucets working. And that is what Emmanuel and I shared. And the rest is what we've been doing. And Emmanuel can obviously add because he has way more Web2 experience than I have just crashed.
No, that's awesome, and I'd love for you to jump in, Emmanuel, and add your, add your 2 cents as well there too, because I'm super interested to learn that. But, Depesh, you had mentioned that you were doing accounting and then transitioned to, obviously this. So, what were some things that helped you make that transition? Because a lot of people that I talk to, they feel as if they start a certain way in their career and that they're not able to, make that transition or change, or that they might get stuck in a certain area and they can't get out of it. So how did you, completely kind of change gears from accounting to being obviously very technical?
I uh, well, can only say that is a mix of just hard work and passion. Uh, Reading the code that I do, even today, for example, I'm working some stuff on the icon layer stuff in the hackathon. It just feels natural and normal to me. And what I can just share one small anecdote is when I was thinking of transitioning, people around me did make it feel that it's a very big decision and I should be 100 times more cautious than I am. And that actually made me self-doubt a lot, because that didn't feel natural to me. It actually felt quite normal when I was almost taking a decision. But then one blog post I read, which said that code actually at the end of the day is written in English language, and people
Mm.
learn completely different languages. So if you know English, you should be able to learn how to code. That kind of just stuck with me, and I'm like, yeah, it is true. So how difficult can it be?
Can't be that hard, right? Nice, I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And now, Emmanuel, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so dude, coming from Web2 space, uh, you always have a choice to, to revert back, right? So you make a mistake or your code is not optimized enough, you can just change it on the fly and, people won't even notice or people won't even feel it, right? I mean, if you think about it, like you guys have been using your phones like Android or iPhone or whatever for like decades, right? You just don't notice it because I mean the changes in the UI and stuff, it just flows through because you can keep changing it and you can keep updating it. Smart contracts, you can't do that, right? So in the Web3, it's literally not possible, right? So once you deploy it, you are done, right? And if there's a bug in the code, that's it. The funds are gone, right? Someone will take advantage of that bug and it probably drain funds or do some other whatever others hacking or something happens on the Web3 space, right? So the development or the way you do stuff in Web3 is kind of very different from what you do in Web2, because of which people actually are much more cautious in this side, on
Hmm.
at least side. uh but yeah, we want to automate that, right? So automating that is hard, but if you can get the right things correctly, it should be possible. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Now, I do know that, one of the main things that BuildBear Labs is addressing is really these inefficiencies encountered in Web3 application development. And you were just touching up on that a little bit. And I would love to learn a little bit more about the platform, but I know that it's really kind of tailored for decentralized applications. And for those that are listening that may not be technical, we'll try to kind of, bring this down to a level that everyone can kind of comprehend here. But I know that one of the missions is really to kind of enable developers to create, these personalized sandboxes for various blockchain networks. So, talk to us a little bit more about the particular networks that you're working on right now, and maybe some future plans, and why you chose to start that way, and just kind of really bring us into the day in the life of a developer that's trying to create an application within Web3, and some of the kind of challenges that they may encounter.
So if I actually recap, Web3 development was not that hard back in like 2019 and stuff like that. You probably have deploying to like a couple of chains, and most of the chains like share similar opcodes and stuff like that. I
Mm,
mean, uh, to actually explain what opcodes are basically the instructions that have to be processed while executing a transaction, right? Now, the
okay.
instructions are similar across different chains. You kind of don't have to do a lot of work to actually deploy it across different chains, right? Until like 2023, it was all fine, but in 2023 and 2024, uh, now there are a lot of L2s, a lot of different chains, especially on the EVM side. Solana is like completely different, but on the EVM side, there are like a lot of chains, different kind of behavior within chains, different of a consensus. So as a developer, you kind of have to think about a lot of different things right now. How are you going to get the liquidity across different chains? How are you going to do the cross chain messaging, or there are
Okay.
like stuff happening, right? So you have to take all of this into account, because back in like 2019, 2018 and stuff like that, liquidity used to be concentrated only on one chain, or like two or three chains. But now it's like it's spread out, right? So if you're making a dApp, you need to actually take leverage of that, so that's kind of the challenges that people face, and also like while developing, you have to keep that in mind. So yeah.
Fantastic. Now, if I was trying to, start and to kind of go down the path, and I'm a developer, let's just say, and I want to start using your platform. How easy is it to kind of get started? Like, walk me down the kind of beginning point, the genesis of how I would go about utilizing your product.
Great. So, you're a developer. You're writing your smart contracts and your scripts to deploy them, and to test them and stuff like that. Just come to our platform, create an account, uh, just create a sandbox, right? So with the sandbox, you get different kinds of plugins that you can play around with. You can create your own, and it's all possible because of our underlying engine, which we call the Phoenix engine, which is like very modular and stuff like that. Because currently like there are like so many different chains around, and so many different kinds of protocols that we have to support, that we needed a modular engine for that. So we actually created this from the scratch, from the ground up, especially for supporting like across the ecosystem, and also to be modular and stuff like that, right? So yeah, it's pretty easy. Basically, you just need like 20 seconds to get started with using BuildBear and start testing and using your application.
then
Yeah.
you're going boom. That's nice. And for those that may not be a technical, I do try to keep these episodes as informational as possible as well too. And for those that may not be a developer or an engineer, and both of you obviously are well versed in this subject, can you just help us understand, like, what's a sandbox, and like what's the crazy kind of stuff that goes on in a sandbox environment in the first place?
So, essentially, think of Sandbox as like a rough notebook, and that's the objective which we want to go with. And the other objective, which is attached to this rough notebook, is that this notebook should be exactly same as the main notebook on which I'm going to eventually deploy my application. And that's why we call it the sandbox. Do whatever dirty things you want to do, and you can invite anyone. For example, I can go right now, create a sandbox, and invite everyone on this call podcast, and we all can be playing around, sending testnet ether or testnet token USDC, or all of us interacting with the same Uniswap contract. We can have our own small world and deterministically check what is the outcomes of our inputs, and be 100% sure that if we were to do this now on the mainnet, the results will be very much the same. That's the entire goal.
I love that. Thank you so much for that explanation. Okay, so let's shift gears here and talk a little bit more about just, what's going on with BuildBear Labs right now. So you all are both based out of Singapore. And once again, folks, if you haven't sent a like or reached out to these two folks for staying up, I mean, it's past midnight right now and you are here having this conversation with us. That's honestly one of the things I love about this space, is just the international global aspect of it all. But talk to us a little bit more about the environment right now in Singapore. What are some interesting developments like? What's it like conducting business, and what are some interesting things that's going on at BuildBear right now that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I can talk about Singapore to spice it up a little bit.
Yes.
Then Emmanuel
I
can
love
talk
it.
about the BuildBear side. So for those of you've probably never stepped into Singapore, it's a pretty tropical weather, extremely hot right now. Everyone's struggling to sort of travel around the city during the daytime. Also, it is, I would say, the epicenter for Southeast Asia, so extremely developed and extremely polished, like any of those, like mostly you can say like pretty competitive to New York. And more specifically from a crypto or a Web3 angle, the regulatory support is outstanding.
Nice.
The regulators over here are very helpful in that sense that they do not want to unnecessarily create a difficult scene just because you're dealing with crypto. They want to extend the hand as much as possible, and their doors are always open to seek clarifications.
Nice. And Emmanuel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, regarding Singapore, yeah, I mean, it's basically the epicenter of basically Southeast Asia, right? So like the big events and everything regarding blockchain, or even like traditional finance, and most of all those things happen in Singapore, right? So if you're actually gonna find some place in Southeast Asia where actually these two entities can meet, basically the big players, the big banks and the blockchain, that's probably Singapore. Yeah.
Nice. Well, hey, you know what? I am so fortunate here. I've just made two new friends in Singapore, so I'm going to be getting out there soon. I'm definitely going to hit both of y'all up. So let's talk a little bit more about the culture, right? Let's talk about the team. What's it like working there? Bring us in just to the kind of average day, even though there probably isn't an average or typical day working in this space. But like help us understand a little bit more. What makes you guys special and things that go on behind the scenes.
So is that like from BuildBear point of view or from a Singapore point of view?
Oh no, this is for Bill Bear point of view.
Ah, right. Oh my God. I think the team should answer rather than I answering this question. I mean, at the end of the day, and I can only add this much, right? For whatever reasons, a CEO position is very dicey in that sense because you have an immense influence on the company, and which means I can just take up the call and quickly tell someone to do something. And as Uncle Ben says, with great powers come great responsibilities. Very difficult
Yes,
to
yes.
keep that in check. Thankfully, we have one more colleague of ours, Michael, who somewhere keeps us in check, me and Emmanuel, if we digress from the thing. But specifically from a team point of view, honestly, I think Emmanuel should answer this because we have 15 folks, and out of the 15, 13 are tech team people, and then me and Michael are just the ones who don't code on a day-to-day basis. And I will have a different perspective as compared to Emmanuel because he deals with everyone, and I'm pretty sure 50% of them is checking with Emmanuel how to handle the pitch.
And I'd love to hear, Emmanuel, I'd love to hear your take on this, but maybe, if you don't want to necessarily talk about yourself per se, Dipesh, what are the kind of characteristics and traits that you look for in individuals that have been successful? I mean, like those people that are part of your team, like what are the things that really makes it easier for you to do your job? Because I'm sure that you encounter so many different things, and you're probably only as good as your team and the people that are supporting you. So what are some of the things that you look for in, like, I would say, that kind of ideal or quote unquote perfect candidate?
So, Emmanuel, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So, that's a lovely question. So, okay. So to recap, uh, I would say we are a small team, right? And like we have products, we have like different area of expertise and stuff like that. So taking an ownership and taking a lead is what we look out for in people, I would say. And yeah, because that just makes hierarchy and decision making very simple, right? Because it's more decentralized, to be very honest, right? So yeah, I mean that's a short answer, I would say.
Nice, cool. And globally, I mean, are you a global organization? Tell us a little bit about your team. Are you kind of a remote first environment? Do you like to kind of get together and do some things in person? Because I found in our industry that depending on where you are in the world, and I guess the stage or in the overall life cycle of the organization, these things can be a little bit different. So, what's it like for you all right now?
Oh, so we are a remote first organization, I would say. The only thing is like, we- I mean, see, everyone is on a different time zone, to be very honest, like each employee. So, I would say, like, we have our tasks. We usually use all these asynchronous tools that just, keeps check and balances. And yeah, it's kind of easy once you get used to it. But yeah, I would say.
Fantastic, nice.
Yeah, and at least I would love to just add one small thing is I think we grew into a couple of things. One of them is how to not take as much as calls as otherwise time would permit. And specifically for me, as I was telling Trevor at the preparation for the call, that I can sometimes talk a lot, and someone needs to sometimes really takes efforts to shut me up. So now at least for me, I've moved on to voice notes for asynchronous communication. And what we do is we just try to write it out. And if we have the time to write it out, we just put voice notes on Slack and in Jira so that the team is updated. But we are not specifically requesting when are you available, can we do a 15-20 minute call, that kind of thing. We take extra efforts to stay async.
I love it. I love it. And let's talk about just kind of how we got here today. So I know that it wasn't too long ago. I mean, time flies by. It's actually probably been a few months, but you actually were successfully able to secure some funding and things of that nature. So talk to our audience and folks that are here, maybe even potential founders or folks that are looking to, get together and create something awesome like you have. What was that like, being able to secure funding, and just kind of bring us into the mindset of what it was like this time last year versus what it's like this year, and how has your mindset changed?
Okay, this one
Well,
is very sensitive. Yeah, this one's is a very touchy touchy topic, honestly, very close to heart. I can't. I'll try to, you know, not go into too much into this one, but if answering the question that if founders who are working on anything and want to raise funds, one golden advice is do a lot of work on your potential investors. That is 10x time saving than pitching to founders. Oh, sorry,
And does that
any.
and does that mean, like, when you mean do work? Does that mean doing research into the potential investors, like, kind of doing your due diligence as if you were trying to create any other kind of partnership? Is What are some of the similarities and differences?
Uh, yeah. So, to first of all answer your question, if I am getting introduced to Fund A or Fund B, and for whatever reasons, right, to potentially think if they want to invest or us to, raise funds, I would possibly spend 4 hours on just researching everything about that one fund before getting on with the first call. What fund size, how many fund deployments, team, the general theme of investments, the partner whom I'm speaking to, his or her background, the 10, 20 deals that this partner has been involved with, do they lead round, do they not lead round, typical check size. I spent a lot of time. And all of this is basically after learning the hard way. Because there was a phase where we would just be pitching or getting introduced to, and then realize it's why is it not giving the results that we wanted to. And then obviously we learned it from the right folks that what you should be doing, and some of them were just getting down and doing a lot of research, and then things change after you do a lot of research.
Awesome. Emmanuel, anything that you can add to that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, mostly what Dipesh covered, but yeah, I would actually add a essential piece of advice is talk to other founders. Talk to different people, talk to other folks in the same space. Keep talking, keep getting the vibe, and then make all the decisions. Is what I would say. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Very sound advice for sure. So let's talk a little bit more about, present day. What are some of the successes, major successes, and there's so many to list here. I don't want to go on, but maybe just briefly touch up on, some of the great partnerships that you've been able to establish, particularly the type of blockchains that you've been able to connect with, and any other kind of really cool things that are going on right now. And maybe also too, looking forward a little bit, what are some things that folks in our audience should be excited about when it comes to what BuildBear Labs is up to?
Yeah, yeah, even good. Yeah, sorry, just saw you on
Oh,
mute.
all right. Okay. Cool partnerships. Okay. Yeah, we actually partner with like various folks in the industry, I would say. Um, um, I'm not. I mean, Dipesh, you want to throw some names there, or
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. That Block Scout, Block Torch. Yeah.
yeah, Blockscar, Blocktosh. I don't know if I'm allowed to say some other names too, but yeah. So Block Scout is like it's like an explorer that people use. It's an alternative to Etherscan, open source, more open, more decentralized. So yeah, we're partnering with them, and yeah, you will be able to use their platform, or at least get the experience with our sandboxes, right? So that's the end goal, to make a sandbox as native as possible to the actual chain, right? So you can get to play around with the entire thing, but not spend like real money or whatever it is for testing. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And I think that you're primarily working with blockchains that are like EVM and EVM compatible. Do you have any, I would say, goals, or are you thinking about potentially opening this up to other type of similar blockchains, maybe?
Similar blockchains. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
are you referring to Solana? That's the only other thing
Yeah,
that I could
yeah.
think of. Yeah. Yeah, no, we have a very big feat to cover within the EVM space.
Yeah.
Uh, but at least just to join a couple of dots, specifically from the partnership related thing. Uh, and we haven't put this out so much in the public domain as much as we should be doing. is that our platform is powered by the Phoenix engine, and the way that engine is designed from day one is more like a plug-and-play architecture, which is gives us a lot of powers, honestly. And one of the power is that a lot of the tools that exist for either analytics or doing transactions on blockchain somewhere have a little bit of restrictions on what they can and cannot use, except in the case of Phoenix, it's just a backbone. So we're going to use Block Scout, Explorer, Blocktorch for analytics, and a couple of more tools. We do a lot of work with the Remix ID. There's a plugin inside over there, uh, and there's a plugin inside VS Code. The idea being that our Phoenix is just sitting in the background and powering a lot of these things in a plug and play model for users of ours, which is basically developers. And they're free to attach or develop their own and attach it to the sandbox and build on top of it. And one of the core objectives of doing that was we acknowledge that we can't be doing everything in this massive ecosystem. Its idea is to just collaborate and build with other people.
That makes sense. Do you feel as though, and this is maybe just a general question to both of you, that in our industry, sometimes there are so many different, shiny objects, and I've seen it a lot too, just with organizations that were core blockchain, but with the obviously attention that's on AI, they've completely shifted, and now they're all about AI. So, do you feel that sometimes organizations in our industry can maybe do themselves a disservice by not trying to just pay attention to the core thing that makes them good, and they are somewhat too segmented or try to do too many things? And how do you, as a founder, and obviously you, Manuel, as a co-founder, how do you really stay focused to the core thing of what your customers are looking for, and really try to pay attention to that, and become an expert in that area?
Uh, a short answer I would say is talk to your customers, right? That's the that's the best way to know what you should focus on, and what actually, if you're building whatever you're building actually is valid and people actually love using it, right? So get the testimonials, get the success stories, and yeah, just keep moving forward. Dipesh, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I'm just going to share a very small thing. And first of all, giving credit to the person is Michael, who's our operations head. With small background, Michael, he's 25 years of work experience as CTO of multiple organizations, and then last 3 years before joining us was with a VC. And his experience is mammoth in front of us. And one thing which he shared with me, and I then went ahead and put it out as a tweet, is that one of the most important job of a founder is to know the things that you must not be doing while running a startup. And that guides us a lot, because we get tempted in doing, or at least spreading our wings and trying to tap onto, or just get excited if a user or a client wants us to do something, and Michael somewhere just keeps us on check, and thinking always tells us, just, do you know what you need to focus on? And then we go back, oh yeah, we just got digressed, so we go back.
I love that. I love that. So it looks like we do have a question here, and my goodness, this conversation is just flying by, and that's the way it always happens, because when you're having fun, time does fly by here. But we do have a question. Mohammed, I'm going to bring you up, and if there's anyone else in the audience that has a question for our amazing, incredible guest here, please, folks, raise your hand. We're probably going to end it in the next 10 or so minutes, because once again, it's almost 1 a.m. where they're at, so I'll be very cognizant of that. But Mohammed, welcome to Just Shilling. What's your question for us today? And you're on mute if you're here. Oh no, Mohammed, do you hear me? If you're still here, you're on mute. I'll keep you up in the background. But while we're on this subject here, folks, tell us a little bit about the current environment with Build Bear. Are you planning to grow your team? Are you currently hiring? What's in the roadmap? And is there anything else that you can share that's obviously not secret information?
Em, you want to go on this one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, team. I don't think we should be increasing increasing the team size given what we do and what we focus on. So, major, like hiring a lot of people or hiring like tons of people is kind of a wrong thing that a lot of startups do. I feel, uh, early on at the early stage, uh, if you have like good folks, like a limited number, but really good folks, that's more than sufficient for all of your needs, right? So yeah, that's what we mostly focus on, to have like good people, really talented people, and keeping the team size limited and letting them thrive and do a good job. Right?
Nice, I like that. Focusing on your core group. Anything else that you want to add to the Depeche?
No, I'm good.
All right, fantastic. So, Mohammed, if you're still here, my friend, you're on mute. Anyone else that would like to come up and ask a question, please do that. Oh, we have Juan Carlos. Juan Carlos, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. What's your question for us today?
Hey, good morning, and thanks again. 1 in the morning. That's wild.
I'm telling you, I've been so fortunate to meet these amazing people in this space. Like that's probably one of the best things that I enjoy about working in this industry. But I've had a lot of guests from overseas, so they're bringing the energy, and I'm gonna match it. So, what's your question for us, Juan?
Roger that. Um, Emmanuel Depeche. So my question is, how do you navigate through the uncertainty and the chaos of this still relatively new environment? Laws are changing. You know, every month, every week, day.
Every second.
How
Yeah.
do you go about that? And then I have the second part of that is this is myself. I'm in project management in construction. What skill sets would navigate to match with that first part of that question? So how do you navigate through it? And then how do I match that? That's really what I want to get at. I want to learn how to navigate the way your team does.
All right. Okay. I'll take up the first part. I would say definitely. So, I mean, like me and Dipesh were having a discussion like today morning itself, about how to keep up with the industry and stuff like. So the main idea is, talk to people and basically keep on reading and consuming knowledge, right? And just don't consume, but also share your thoughts with other people, and that gets you an active member of the community in general, right? So again, I can't speak for other fields, but at least on the blockchain side, like community is a big factor of how things move forward. I mean, in terms of like the decisions we make, or even in terms of like the large organizations like Ethereum, every vote or every opinion matters, right? So, like even for like the big decision changes and stuff like that, they usually have a discussion in which you can participate, right? So, it, having up to speed and up to date with all of these information is necessary, and is what people should do, at least on the blockchain side. And I think it also applies to tech and also like other fields in general, to be involved with the community and stuff like that. Dipesh, you want to add something to that?
I mean, yeah, that's largely it. It is difficult. Unfortunately, it is extremely difficult in Web3. And and also unfortunate is that my experience is solely Web3, and then other one that I can talk about is the international tax, which almost had the same issues. It's extremely fast moving, and you just have to read a lot to keep yourself updated.
What are some of the
Uh,
what are some of sorry to cut you off there, but are there any just I would say like really helpful websites or other like resources? Are there any like Discord groups or Telegram channels that y'all are familiar with? Because as you mentioned before, I mean, it's you got to be on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, any given day. You got to be on Telegram. You got to be on Discord. You got to be, checking out these aggregator sites. So, are there any of them that really kind of come to your mind that are useful and that you should probably just direct people to?
I would say forums, and like there are like a lot of small forums out there on the internet, like at least for the Ethereum and stuff. Like Ethereum itself as a forum for like development and for like other stuff, and like Reddit, and yeah, that's what I would say. And from there you can find your niche and start talking to them, start engaging, and become part of the larger community in general, right? And of course, go and meet people in the meetups and conferences that happens near you, or wherever you can go, do go and meet people and connect. Yeah, because yeah, we mostly live on connections, right? So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
IRL
my
things,
career,
hackathons are cool too. Yeah, what about you, Depesh? What are your thoughts?
my transition into Web3 happened because of meetup.com. There was a meetup
Nice.
about blockchain, and I was like, oh, this is pretty nice. I should do this.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But
That's
also answering one of Juan's question was, I think, about the project management related stuff, and especially I think he was mentioning that he's into construction, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. The skills that you can carry forward is, and I can sort of speak on this because I come from a non-Web3 or a non background, and management, project management, keeping razor focus on something within a timeline is critical, I think, in anything, from non-tech to tech, and I think whoever has it has an edge. Do whatever. So if you want to carry thoughts and skills, I'm pretty sure this will be very, very helpful.
Nice. Thank you so much. Thank you for that question, Juan. And maybe building up on this a little bit too here is, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you probably see people that you encounter with that reach out to you, maybe potentially if they're searching for a job or they're just trying to become a part of the ecosystem and be a contributor or a volunteer? Like, what are some of the red flags or mistakes that people make in terms of their messaging and outreach to you? And, what are some words of wisdom that you can probably share to folks that are maybe in their similar position? And then the second part of that question is, how can developers, people that are maybe focusing in Web 2 right now, what are some of the tips and tricks that they can take from your expertise to make that transition to Web 3 and really kind of maybe some mistakes to avoid as well?
Okay, at least on the first part, I can say that I want to actually answer this question from a different angle. Essentially,
Yeah.
my learnings, especially when I reach out to people, uh, for various different reasons, right? Some are potential clients, some are potential partners, or maybe when we were raising investments, reaching out to VCs. The one thing I learned is the lack of homework often leads to a closed conversation, doesn't sort of add value. So if I'm reaching out to, let's say, a CTO of a Web3 organization for some sort of work or collaborative effort, if I've not done my homework of what kind of topics has this CTO been talking about or is sensitive to any of those things, and bluntly put, if I'm not able to create a situation in which I can clearly show I'm adding value rather than just extracting value, even if not at the start, it often leads to a closed conversations very soon. So that's my learning. And unfortunately, also what happens when people reach out to me is sometimes 80% of them are just cold emails without, unfortunately, doing a little bit of homework. So I do feel about that.
That is sound advice for sure. Emmanuel, anything for you?
Uh, I don't think I have to add anything beyond this. I would say I think Dipesh covered most of the things. So
Nice.
yeah.
And from like a developer mindset, right? So, what are some things that make, I would say, a successful developer in Web3 versus someone in Web2. And for me, I found that most of our clients, there used to be a time, right, where developers and engineers, they could kind of just go in their own room, be in their own space, and they didn't necessarily need to interact with other team members, and they could just sit and do code and do that all day. And I've seen a lot of our clients are starting to shift to wanting people to be, have communication skills, maybe focus a little bit more on those soft skills, and maybe be able to interact and at least understand on a very basic level what other people and other divisions of the organization are doing. Have you all seen that as well too? And what are some other, I would say, skills that developers or engineers or people that want to go down a similar career path that you have chosen can do?
Okay, so to recap, in big organizations, or like the like the Googles or the Amazons, or you can kind of go around without having that much. I mean, without basically making conversation with anyone, basically, to be very honest, right? So you can just do your Jira tickets, you can just do your tasks, and you will mostly be fine, right?
Mm.
But like in Web3, because Web3, like 90% of the work in Web3 is like are like small teams, right? So in small teams, you have to be active, right? Because you have to actively contribute to the product, because mostly like a part of your product will be under you, right? So you'll be having the entire ownership and the entire control of that part of the product, right? So yeah, you have to communicate, you have to say what to do and say what not to do and stuff like that, right? So because a lot of decisions and stuff rely on you, yeah, you have to have that skill, especially in Web3, I would say.
Love that. It's great advice. Anything for you, Depesh?
For a web, for any developer to succeed in Web3, uh, I would, unfortunately, it's very technical. Like the Web3 industry at the juncture it is today is extremely technical, and maybe it's in my nature. I think I'm just in love with homework that I've now told it like 4 to 5 times in this entire podcast. So I would think that, yeah, if you kind of want to succeed, yeah, you'll have to read up a lot, do up a lot of things, and value. And I think the best one of them is to participate in hackathons, and specifically in Web3, because, or for that matter, specifically in all the technology fields which are at a nascent stage. Because all these organizations are still building infrastructure. They want developers to come, so they are organizing these events. And the idea is that if you're a developer who wants to build, get to just know a lot of them and build on top of them, and that's the best way.
I love it. I love it. So, gosh, we're almost out of time here. I want to end this also as well to kind of just talking about the importance of our space. And a lot of times, where the news cycles are dominated by negativity, and I like to, always kind of keep it positive and end on a positive note. So, for individuals that are out there that may not really be aware of what's going on in our space or truly the importance of a product, though, like the one that you're trying to build, let's kind of play devil's advocate, right? If there was no BuildBear, and there were people were trying to create Web3 applications the quote unquote normal way, what are some of the kind of challenges that they typically run into when it comes to meeting deadlines? Like, what's the actual kind of, I would say, financial burden or kind of, I would say, issue that comes up if they're not able to have a product like the one that you've created?
Yeah, to be honest, the cost is approximately 500,000 to approximately uh, 750,000, and time that's basically time cost. We're talking about 6 to 8 months of delay of trying to create an environment and then test the application. That's the impact a app has today, or the time that they spend on testing.
Wow. Wow, that's definitely significant. And yeah, I'm sure that a lot of projects, right, you live and die by the speed of able to being able to kind of bring things to market. So that's awesome, Depesh. Anything that you can think of, Emmanuel?
Uh, yeah. So yeah, it's mostly like mostly like it's it's dev time and the testing time, right? So the amount of time you can reduce, they'll reduce for testing, but also keep it good. And it has to test everything. If you're checking all the boxes, then yeah, just bring down the testing time, and that will save you a lot of money in the long run. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Now, for leaving it here, for the folks that may not be technical, and just so that we can kind of get some more love and respect for the developers and engineers out there, what are some of the things that I would say are probably the biggest misconceptions that folks have about developers and engineers, and why is it important for people that may not have a developing or engineering background to start paying attention a little bit more to what the developers and engineers are doing, and how important is the strength and success, and also the capabilities of your engineers and your developers with the success of an actual crypto project.
Okay, that's pretty that's a nice question. So, uh, see, like if you look at 90%, or maybe like not 90%, I would say 70% of the crypto projects, they're mostly dApps, right? So they're like protocols and DeFi, and so for DeFi, it's basically decentralized finance. So basically finance on the blockchain, right? So it can be exchanges, it can be swaps, it can be borrowing and lending money and stuff like that, right? So uh, for majority of this, most of the time goes into the math, right? It's core mathematics, and it's the design of the protocol itself, right? Because these are fundamentals set in stone, at least in traditional finance, but it has to be done a bit differently in the decentralized world, right? On blockchain. So most of the time is actually spent on developing these protocols, on designing these protocols, right? Not developing, but designing these protocols. But once this design is done, then it's just development and testing of these protocols and seeing if the design actually makes sense, right? So that's how usually the entire thing goes, right? So yeah,
Fan-
I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
no, that's great. Tapesh, any other additional points there?
No, good.
Nice, nice. Well, hey, folks, this has been a very insightful session. I thank you so much, both of you, for joining. I mean, I could talk to you for a lot longer here, but I am going to respect the time of day that it is there. It's Tuesday for you all, so happy Tuesday, GM folks. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you. And for everyone that is listening, thank you so much for joining. I know there's a million things that you can be doing to start off your week, but you've chosen to bring your attention and your intention here, so I respect that and I appreciate that. I've learned a lot today, so definitely I would like you guys to go and follow Dipesh and Emmanuel, give them some love, give them some likes, give them some props. Also, folks, just kind of closing out here, if people are interested, I know that you mentioned that you're maybe not in the point of hiring right now, but there's potentially growth in the future. Or if people are just curious, or they want to collaborate, or if there are some investors out there, some VCs that may want to invest in a really awesome organization, not financial advice, of course, how can people touch base with you? What are the platforms? What's the best way to keep in touch and connect?
Honestly, I would say just LinkedIn. Just shoot us a message. Shoot us a mail or message on LinkedIn. Yeah, we'll definitely reach out to you also. Yeah.
Yep,
Fantastic.
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, thank you all once again, folks. Have an incredible day. We will be back and look forward to connecting with you. Thank you all. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.